We are in Shemot, chapter 1, verse 10. We're in the middle of a verse that Pharaoh says to his advisors, let's outsmart him. Let the Jewish people increase. Who is he outsmarting? Is he outsmarting God? Is he outsmarting the Jewish people? Lest they increase, and then when we go out to war, he'll increase upon us and upon our enemies, and he'll wage war against us. Ve'alam in ha'aretz. So we're up to the Rashi. Ve'alam in ha'aretz, and he will go out from the land. So what does Rashi tell us this means? Rashi says, Ve'alam in ha'aretz al karchenu. Against our will, he's going to go up from the land. The Rabbotenu darshu, and the rabbis taught that what does this mean? Ka'adam shemikalel atzmo. This is like a person who curses himself. But he directs his curse at others because you were afraid to make the curse about yourself. It's as if the Torah had written, it's as though Pharaoh is saying, we'll go up from the land and they will inherit the land. So that's how Rashi's interpreting this verse. We're in chapter 1, verse 11 of the book of Exodus, and we have a tremendous guest here today. This tremendous guest, which we're so proud of to be a part of. Now, this next verse states, "Vayasimu alav sarei misim," and so they placed upon simu alav. So they appointed. We'll see how Rashi understands the word alav, because alav usually means on him. So Rashi is going to tell us what that means. They placed upon it sarei misim, officers of taxes, in order to afflict them. We see from here that the first step in affliction is raising taxes. Tried and true story. Vayiven arei miskenos leFaro as pitom es Ramses, and he built cities of miskenot. We'll see what that means for Pharaoh, and these cities were Pitom and Ramses. We'll see what this means in Rashi. Rashi says, Vayasimu, they placed upon it, Rashi says, Awa'am, over the people. Arei miskenot, what does Rashi say? Misim, taxes. Rashon mas, it's a tax. Sarim shegovin mehen max. These are taxes these are officials who are going to collect the taxes. This Rashi here is different from the Targum, who says shiltonim mav'ashin, that these are malicious officials. Rashi says these are officials whose job was to collect taxes. I mean, you could say there was a difference. You could say, Umau amas, what was the tax? Sheyivnu arei miskenot leFaro. The tax was that they should build storage cities for Pharaoh. That was the tax. That they had to build these cities for Pharaoh. Raman anoso b'sivosam. What's the reason for this tax? In order, in order to afflict them. Rashi says, Shel Mitzrayim. This refers in order to afflict it with their burdens. So what Rashi is saying is, meaning to say that the Egyptians gave the Egyptians hard work to do. So the Egyptians were saying that the Israelites had to do the hard work of the Egyptians. Arei miskenos. What does this mean? Rashi says, Kitar Gumo, as Uncle says. And what does Uncle says? Uncle writes that what are these things? Kirvei Beit Otzaran, which Kirvei is like Kiryat, like cities. Beit Otzaran, storage cities. So basically, cities of storehouses. So that's what they were required to build. All of this was to strengthen Pharaoh's hand. We see this verse in Isaiah, go to the sochein, which means go to the clerk. This is a treasurer who's appointed over storages.
Today the word sochein means agent.
I'm sorry, Rabbi Yosef, say it louder.
In modern Hebrew, sochein means agent.
An agent? Your sochein is your agent?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Et Pitom et Ramses. They built Pitom and Ramses. Shelo hayu ruyot mitchila lakach. Va'asum chazakot u'v'tzurot ha'otzer. That Pitom and Ramses were not initially fit for this purpose, i.e. for storage, but the Israelites made them strong and fit for storage. Meaning to say, they were in use for these locations. So, but rather, the cities were already in existence, Pitom and Ramses. And so what they did was that the Israelites did construction and made these cities stronger. So they sent them in to repair the cities. Yes, Mr. Sheckman. Jerry.
The Jews built warehouses to store all these things.
Well, that's what Rashi says. Yeah, Rashi says these were storage houses to hold their goods. Yeah, that's Rashi. Okay, we continue. V'chasher, so it says Rashi, just continuing. V'chasher yanu oso, the more Pharaoh afflicted them, ken yirbeh v'chen yifros, so they would increase and multiply. Vayakutsu b'nei b'nei Israel, and they were disgusted by the children of Israel. Let's see what Rashi says. V'chasher yanu oso, kechoma shehem notnim lev v'anot, ken lev HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more they afflicted them, the more they tried to afflict them, the more God increased them and made them multiply. Kain Yirbeh, she says, Kain Rabba v'chein paratz. It was increasing and bursting forth. Kain Rabba v'chein paratz u'midrasho ruach hakodesh omeratein. The Midrash says that the Holy Spirit is saying, Atem omrim pen yirbeh. The Pharaoh said, let's afflict them lest they increase. Vani omer ken yirbeh. I'm saying they will increase. So the commentaries on Rashi say that what Rashi is saying here is that as soon as the Egyptians intended to afflict the Jewish people, then at that point the increase took place. As soon as he intended. Vayakutsu mibnei bnei Israel. They were disgusted with the children of Israel. What does this mean? They were disgusted. Katsu v'chayehem. They were disgusted with their lives. What does that mean? What does that mean? They were disgusted with their lives.
Did they fear them because they were?
So the verse doesn't say what they were disgusted with. So Rashi's saying that they were disgusted with their lives. It doesn't say whose lives. It doesn't say whose lives, their own lives or the lives of the Jews. By Yakutsu, so they were disgusted with their own lives on account of the children of Israel. That's what I think Rashi is saying. They were disgusted. They were disgusted with themselves when they saw the Jewish people. Like Katzti, like earlier in Genesis, Katzti b'chayai mipnei benot chet. Like earlier in Genesis, when Rebecca says that I am disgusted with my life because my son is marrying the daughters of Chet. So that's what she was saying. And the rabbis taught it's like coats, like a thorn. The Israelites were thorns in the eyes of the Egyptians. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Aviva. What were you saying?
No, you made the point. You said they don't know who was disgusted. They were disgusted with who, but the Egyptians.
The Egyptians were disgusted with their own lives because they saw the Jewish people kept increasing, and this to them.
But did they fear that? Because they feared they would take.
They fear that Pharaoh feared that. We don't know exactly if the Egyptian people did, but Pharaoh feared it. And when somebody else, this is a lesson, okay? This is a lesson that we have to remember for our lives. Maybe I'll put this out there in the 1 minute Torah thought I like, because people don't always watch the long videos. So we try 1 minute thoughts. This is the 1 minute thought that we could take away. If you ever are upset because of somebody else's success, that's the way of the Egyptians. The Egyptians were upset because of the Jews increasing. So if you're going to be upset with the success of somebody else, that's Egypt. Egypt is not the way we're supposed to act. That symbolizes Egypt. So that's the message that I would suggest everybody think to ourselves the next time we have like some sort of pleasure with somebody, some sort of upset with somebody else's success. Show it in front. Yeah. We should never get upset when somebody else is succeeding, unless that person is wicked and like God forbid, it's the Nazis. But other than that, if it's just that we don't like them, then no. Okay. So then the verse tells us, okay, this is very, very, these are some of the most, this is the greatest story ever told. Vayavidu Mitzrayim et bnei Yisrael b'farach. And the Egyptians enslaved the children of Israel with parach. With parach. Parach means, what does parach mean? That they enslaved them with parach. So Rashi tells us that it means ba'avodah kasha hamifarachas es haguf u'mishabarto. With back-breaking work, with hard work that breaks the body and breaks it. Hard work that breaks the body and crushes it. The Talmud in Gemara and Soto 11b tells us that there are actually two meanings for this word befarach. Befarach can come from the word to crush, befarach, like it means here. Like here means be'avodah kasha mefarachas es haguf, but it could also mean beperach, with softness, with a soft mouth, meaning with like trickery, that he tricked them into, like the golden handcuffs. So Rashi here is only giving us one of the approaches, because in Pasuk Yudalid it teaches us, it's very clear that it was with hard work. So here means hard work. Okay, so that's what Rashi says. Pasuk Yudalid, Vayimaru eschayehem avodah kasha b'chomer uvilvenim u'b'chol avodah b'sadeh. And he made their lives bitter with hard work, with chomer u'vilvenim, with mortar and bricks, u'b'chol avodah b'sadeh, with all the hard work of the field. As all their hard work that they worked hard in the field. So that's what Rashi said. That's what Rashi says. He made them work very hard. That's the Torah. That's the Torah portion. Verse 15. No. But farach means hard work. The field is sadeh, but all the work that Asher Abduba and Befarach, he made them work hard. Okay, so now we're up to verse 15. Vayomer Melech Mitzrayim Lamiradosa Evrios. And the king of Egypt said to the Miyaladosa Evrios, the midwives, the Hebrew midwives. Rashi's interpretation is that this is referring to Israelite women who are acting as midwives. We'll see what it says in a second. Asher Shema Achaz Shifra. The name of one of them was Shifra. The Shema Shein is Pua. The name of the other one was Pua. Rashi says, Mamilados, who are shown Molidos. These are the Mialados, which we know means midwives. Rashi says it has the same meaning as the word Molidos. These are people who help give birth. One is simple, one is intensive. Okay, we'll skip those Rashis. And then Rashi says Shifra. Who is Shifra? This is Yocheved. Al Shem Shemeshaperes Esavad. She was able to beautify the child at birth. Shemishaperes Esavlad. She made the child look good. And I'm sorry?
She helped the child be in good physical condition. Is that what you mean?
Well, technically speaking, it says Shemishaperes Esavlad, which just means that she made the child look good, but we could assume that's physical. Yeah, just 1 second, Jerry. Let me just complete this Rashi. And Pua, Zu Rashi says, Zu Miriam, Al Shem Shepua, Umedaberet, Vogel Avad, Kederach, Anashim Amefaisot, Tino Kaboches. So Miriam was called Pua because she would cry and speak and coo to the child in the manner in which women appease the child. Pua means Lashon Tzaka, to cry out. Kimo, ki, as it states in the verse, Kayoeda Efe, from Isaiah. I will cry out like a woman in childbirth. Okay, so Rashi says that these women are Yocheved, the mother of Moses, and Miriam, the sister of Moses. Yes, Jerry.
What is the translation of the Hebrew name Shifra?
So that's the thing. Rashi connects it to the word mishaperet, shifra from mishaperet, to make shapir, like good.
Oh, good.
But other commentary says that these are Egyptian names, and that these were Egyptian women. That's not the approach Rashi takes.
But the text itself in verse 15, it says these are Hebrew midwives.
No, the text says these are miladot ha'ivriot. So it could mean Hebrew midwives, which is how Rashi translates it, or you could mean the midwives to the Hebrews. It could be like an Egyptian who had a practice serving the Israelite women. OB practice serving the Israelite women.
But then there would be a lamed instead of a hey.
No, not necessarily. You could say these are the midwives to the Hebrews, or the Hebrew midwives, meaning to say that this was their name of their practice. And in fact, the context of the next verse seems to say that he's talking about the Hebrews. Like if you look at the very next verse, he says, "But you give birth to the Hebrews," meaning to say that it implies that these are not Hebrews. But Rashi doesn't. Rashi's consistent with what you're saying, Jerry.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Vayomer bioet chanata evriot. He says, when you give birth to the Hebrews, urisen alav naim, and you see them on the stone. So they used to sit on a big stone. The women, when they gave birth, would they go on a birthing stone, a big giant stone, and then they give birth from that position. And the doctor or the midwife would stand underneath and catch the baby. In Benu, if it's a boy, so kill it. In Basi v'chaya. And if it's a girl, you let her live. You had a question, Aviva.
They must have had more than just these two midwives.
Right, they must have had more than just these two midwives. If you have so many children who are being born, and you have millions of people, so they must have been the head.
The text is probably just focusing on this because
Maybe they had the biggest practice. Maybe they had the biggest.
how many killed?
Let's see what Rashi says. Rashi says, "Biyal etchen, kemo b'holitchen," like when you assist in their childbirth. Al avnayim, moshav ha'isha hayoledet, the stool of the woman who gives birth is called the avnayim. U'b'makom acher koro mashper. In Isaiah, he calls it the mashper. Mashper is like a crisis, but it's like the place of the birthing stool. Kamo oseh melacha al avnayim. Okay. Moshav klei umnus yotzer charesh. In Benu v'gomer, and if it's a boy, you kill it. Rashi says, Lo ya makpid el alas charim. Pharaoh only wanted to kill the boys. Why? Shamrulo it's dagni nav, because his astrologer said to him, Shatid livaled bein hamoshia utam, that a boy is going to be born for you in the future who's going to save you. That's what Rashi says. In the future, that's what Pharaoh was told, that a boy is going to be born to who's going to save them. And that was correct. The astrologers were correct. And if you see this, if it's a daughter, she can live. V'bati v'chaya, v'techya, she will live. So there's two ways to read this verse, that you're required to let her live, or we don't care if she lives. So Rashi seems to be saying that we don't care if she lives. You're not required to kill her. But others read it as you have an obligation to keep the girl alive. Rashi doesn't take that approach. Okay. Vayikra Melech Mitzrayim, verse 18, and the king of Egypt called Lamielados to the midwives. Vayomer lahen. Oh, excuse me, I skipped the key verse. The most important verse. One of the most important verses in the whole Torah. Vaterena Amielados esa Elokim. And the midwives feared God. Can you imagine these midwives? They were
Maybe imply they're Jewish or Hebrews, if they fear God and had all these other.
It could imply, but it could have been saved by Egyptian women who are God fearing. That's how some commentaries interpret it. And the word, if it will be the word Yud and K and then Vav K, Yud K Vav K, that's the God, specifically the God that revealed himself to the Jewish people. But Elokim is a more universal word for God. So that might seem to imply that they were only the Egyptians. But anyway, let's see what Rashi says. But that these women, they feared God, and they did not do like God had told, like the king of Egypt had told them. And they allowed these children, they caused these children to live. Let's see what Rashi says. They gave water and food to these midwives. The Torah could have just said that they didn't kill the babies, but the Torah doesn't. Hello, Judah and Eitan here, to grab a chumash behind you. There's a chumash on the thing, to the left, the second column, right there, right where Eitan is. Yeah, we're in chapter 1, verse 17. The pasuk could have just said that they did not kill the Egyptian, the Jewish boys, but instead it says, Vatechayeno es haYeladim. They allowed these children to live. From the fact that they said Vatechayeno es haYeladim, we see it's an extra point. What's the extra point? The extra point is that they went so far as to do an action to help the midwives live. And Rashi says what that action was that they gave them food and water. Tirgum Harishon, Onkelos' first translation of this is Vikima, Vasheni Vikima son. So the first translation is, and they let live, but the second translation of the word is Vikiyam ton, because the word Vatechayena appears again in the next pasuk. Vatechayena es haYeladim. So in the first translation, Onkelos is saying they let live. And in the second translation, Pharaoh is speaking to them and saying, you let live. Okay, we'll skip. The rest is grammar. We skip those Rashis or grammar, not because they're not important, but because I don't really feel comfortable understanding them properly, even though I took a lot of years of biblical Hebrew with a great professor. It's not his fault. I studied with a great professor named Professor Richard Steiner. What an incredible teacher. But the fault in the grammar is completely mine. Vayikra Melech Mitzrayim, and the king of Egypt called Lamielados to these women, to these midwives. Verse 19. Vayomer lahen, madua asiten hadavar hazeh. Why did you do this thing? Vatechayena es haYeladim. Why did you allow these children to live? That's what he says. But the chayena seyoladin. Why did you do this? Let's see what Rashi says here. No Rashi in this pasuk. Okay. By the way, this is, to me, let's just pause for a moment. Where is the story more powerful? If these midwives are Jews or if these midwives are Egyptians? It's a very different story. It's a very different story, and really changes the whole story of the Exodus if these midwives are Egyptians. I mean, to say we owe our redemption in part to the daughter of Pharaoh. But that's just one, and they could say like she was noblewoman, but here's just regular people. Like Pharaoh's not going to kill her. Pharaoh's not going to kill his own daughter, and also she hid his Jewishness. But these midwives were directly rejecting it. Yeah,
maybe it suggests that amongst this class of women, there was the harshness.
The women were brave. These women were. Maybe you'd have to assume that these women were the inspiration for Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was a very religious woman. So, Vatomarna miladosa Paro, and these midwives said to Pharaoh, these Egyptian women, these Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They're not, by the way, that also implies maybe they were not Hebrew midwives, Israelite midwives. Ki chayotena, they are chayot. They're chayot, they're like animals, because before the midwife comes to them, they give birth. Rashi, let's see Rashi. Ki chayotena. Rashi says, what does it mean? I translate it as animals, but Rashi says bikiyot kamioladot. Rashi says they are experts like the midwives. Targum miladot, the translation of miladot is chayata, is the chayata, which is very similar to the word chayot. So therefore, Rashi is telling us that the word chayot is another word for saying like midwives. That's what Rashi is saying. But v'rabotenu darshu harei mishurot l'chayot hasadeh. They're compared to, this is the rabbis are saying, they're compared to the animals of the field. She'enan tzricha miladot. When was the last time you saw an animal requiring an OB to deliver its baby? Does the dogs do the lioness or the dogs require a doctor?
Yes, sometimes.
No, they do, but to deliver?
Yes,
Probably,
yes.
fine. But the ones in the field don't go to the doctor. You're correct, Deborah.
No,
But anyway,
some don't make it.
that's true. I can't say anything.
Also, it's with the word that you should sue that we.
Right, yeah, for sure. It fits with the word that we said yesterday. And where are they compared to beasts? So this refers to where Yaakov and Moshe, when they blessed the animals, they blessed them in this manner. They would say, Gur Aryeh Yehuda, a lion cub is Judah, Zev Yitraf, Benjamin is a wolf, Bechor Shoro, the firstborn of his ox, Ayala Shlucha, Naphtali is a very fast gazelle. Umishal Nichtavo, Haria Katuv Kilalan, and those for whom it's not written in the Torah, they're all included in one category because it says Ma'im Chalaviyah. What is your mother? She is a lioness. So we've seen two explanations when it says Miladot, that they are chayot, that they are chayotena. One explanation is that the Jewish women are expert in giving birth, like midwives, or number two, they're animalistic in that they don't need midwives. So the Gemara in Sota offers both of these explanations, but the Talmud rejects the first one because even if they are experts in giving birth, even the OB the woman who's an OB or a midwife, she still needs to go to an OB to give birth. So therefore, but Rashi nevertheless cites both explanations because even if they weren't experts, even if they still needed one, they knew how to hide it better, is what the Maskil David says. Okay, we have to stop here and we'll pray the Mincha prayer at this point.